Being human is your biggest advantage, not your biggest liability. With so much automation and noise, real connection stands out more than ever. So, in today's episode of Be Unmessable with the podcast, I am talking to Bryan Kramer, who shares his human to human philosophy and why showing up as yourself is the most effective strategy, not only in business, but in life.
Hey there, and welcome to Be Unmessable with the podcast. I am your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and today my guest is called the Zen Master to Digital Marketers. He was called that by Forbes, not by me. So, Bryan Kramer is a renowned business strategist. He's a global keynote speaker, an executive trainer, a coach, an investor, a two-time best-selling author. He sits on the Harvard Business Review Council and is a Fast Company board advisor. He also created a global movement and is known for his keynotes, book, and talks on There Is No B2B or B2C. It's human to human, which I love that, H2H. His marketing company, Pure Matter, earned a spot as one of the fastest growing companies 3 years in a row by the Silicon Valley Business Journal. And we are lucky enough to have him here as our guest today. So let's welcome to the show, Bryan Kramer. Thank you so much for joining us, Bryan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to hear about how you ended up doing what you're doing and how you ended up, being on the Harvard Business Review. I mean, it's such a varied sort of bio. I want to know how you got on this path.
Oh my gosh. I wish I had an easy answer for you. It was a lot of the path really was kind of led. It led me to it, it goes back to what I actually did, what I studied. So my degree was in communications, and I had a minor in Japanese, which literally was like a sign at college that pointed this way and said Japanese, and I signed up, but it never went anywhere.
I was going to say, how
Still
often do you use that?
no, yeah, it's been years. I'd love to bring that back into the fold, and I will when it's time. Um, and I went from company to company to help them with their transformation from traditional to digital. That was my job for forever. I was like a little bit like Mary Poppins. I'd go in and transform and help and do a lot of people management, a lot of technology transformation. Enjoyed it, loved it, and then ended up getting to start a company within a company, and that did extremely well. Thank God, with the right people, the right mix process, and it was at the right time.
And was this Pure Matter that I mentioned in the
This
introduction?
is before Pure Matter. This is where I got my chops, if you will. I got a P&L from my first boss hired me to start the company within the company, and I didn't realize what kind of learning I do around P&Ls and around managing people and doing all these crazy things that one day I really wanted to do. I just didn't know how, and then here it was on a silver platter, and I got a chance to do it right in the .com era. And it grew from 3 people to 78 people, and
Mm.
we did some incredible work. And then they sold the company to another company, and I thought, okay, well, this is time to now do my own thing, and I did. I started it. That was in 2001 with my then girlfriend, now wife, and she and I got married, had a baby, started a company in that order. Within a year,
Two babies. You had 2 babies.
we had so many babies.
Yes.
And yeah, that was in 2001. We did all those neat things, and then looked at each other and said, let's do this. And we did. And 25 years later, we ended up exiting the company, but the ride was just amazing. Yeah.
Amazing. And when you talk a little bit about human to human, the H2H I see behind you, for those of you that are not seeing us on video, that is part of the title of your books, your talks, your keynotes. So talk to us a little bit about that there's no B2B or B2C, it's H to H.
Yeah. A lot of what we were saying in the agency was that everything has to be driven from a human perspective. We have to understand what is it that the customer wants. So this is going back to my marketing days of really understanding the customer, putting the customer at the center, as we all say. And in doing so, we also had to market many different types of companies, and the same thing was happening over and over and over again, which was that we had to put an understanding that the customer doesn't care about how the companies run. They don't care about how you do things differently. What they care about is their own experience. So we got to make the experience good no matter what, and we have to say the thing that makes the most sense to them in the moment that they're going to pick up that thing and buy that thing, or the long tail sale, whatever you want to call it. So we would humanize. Our job was to humanize everything that we touched and make it appeal to them in that moment. And so we really focused hard on that. It took us years to really get from small businesses to then dealing globally with like IBM and Netflix and Cisco and MasterCard and doing all these great things. So it was finally picking up. And the thing that picked up the most was when we started focusing on H to H, human to human, and how we started to do that was really incredible, only because we got the opportunities for companies to say, let's try that. Let's treat this like a lab and see if we can actually make that happen and do some pretty radical things. Which who would consider human to human radical, right? Like
Yeah, you
when you
got to
go,
tell me more about what that means. Like was it? And then how did you shift it to human to human? What did that entail, or what did that look like?
yeah, before it was all about like things like demand generation and websites and creating digital tools and YouTube videos and it's all the stuff, right? And that's not to say that it's not needed, but there wasn't that heart in it. People weren't understanding like who are the people behind this. I mean, when you go to most brands, you don't understand who's behind it. I mean, you might think Apple, Tim Cook, but you don't really understand who's behind it. Or if you go to Amazon, you might think Jeff Bezos, but who are the actual? What's the heartbeat of the company? And so we wanted to really do that, and in doing so, we were able to get into companies and really start to tell their story and what it was like inside the company, and really showcase not just the people, but the inner workings and the
Mm.
things that made them special. And one way that we did that was through developing relationships with people that were up and comers outside the companies and helping to tell their story through like influencer kind of engagements. We did the first influencer marketing campaign globally for IBM, and we only chose 30 people to come in, and we rented a loft inside of in New York, and we did this entire day, surprised them at the end of the day with an international culinary center cook-off. Did all these different content, futuristic programs during the day, took them through from fright to what the future was going to look like, and that could be both scary and good. Had them predict then the future of what could be for what's coming, this was I don't know 15 years ago. So they're predicting AI at that point, what it could be and
Wow.
how it could, and we're coming up with all this content and helping everybody to understand. Both IBM and them, that the future is now. Like we need to lead, how are people going to interact with all this? And we did 6 months worth of wonderful content out of that day. But not only that, the thing that really sparked it for me and I think for everyone else was the relationships that were built over that day and a half. Those 30 people became futurists that day. They weren't quite yet there. Remember, they're up and comers. And so all of a sudden now they're shouting from the rooftops, oh my God, this is the future. This is what's going to happen. And I'm so excited to be a part of it. And I'm a futurist. And that grew. It grew to hundreds of influencers around the world doing programs just like that and building these little small communities of people that were excited to shout from the rooftops because they had this little peek inside of IBM. Nobody really knows what's behind the big curtain. I didn't
Yeah.
know what was behind the curtain. And so we gave them that. And all of a sudden now they had something to talk about. And that I think resonated with a lot of people to say, okay, now I understand a little bit more about what IBM did, or when we did it with Netflix, or when we did with other things. It's like, yeah, we know the company as a company, but who are they really?
I
That's
love
what
it.
we did.
I love it. It's like the fabric that makes up the ultimate quilt, so to speak, that you see the quilt, but you don't see the threads within the fabric. And that's like the people. I love that. I love that. And what do you find when you work with people? Because I know you coach people, executives. What do you find is the biggest thing that gets in people's way, or as I would say, what messes with them?
Their voice. Their
Say,
voice,
say more.
the voice in our head. I'm not, I'm going to be right there with them when I say that my voice and their voice, we all have this voice, the thing, the saboteur, the one thing that says you're not doing enough, you're not being enough. It gets in their way when they're saying, I should have done this, I should have done that. I could have done this, I could have done that, or what's the future holds for me. And, oh, I can't do that, I can't do this. All of those I can'ts, I shoulds, those are all not how we really talk to ourselves. If we were to talk out loud, that's not what we would say. But when we're inside our head, that's what we say. So I would say number one is our voice. It's how we talk to ourselves. I could see that as both being an easy answer and the hardest thing to work on, because at
Mm,
the same time you could call it, in fact, you could even name your voice, which
people do, yes.
my voice's name is Lowell because he's an evil sense of humor. And he just comes and he just rains on my parade. And the idea is to observe it, right? To understand it, to see like when it comes up. But you can't really quiet the voice by telling it to shut up. You've got to say, hey, I got this. We're good. It's okay, Lowell. You can laugh all you want, but just take a seat in the corner because I got this right now. So that would be the number one thing I think would be the voice.
Yeah, it's funny. There was a movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy. I don't know if you ever saw it back in like the 70s or 80s, I think.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in that movie where the reporter who goes there is sitting in a cafeteria at a company in South Africa, and this woman sits next to her and she turns to her and she says, "Does the voice in my head bother you?" That's what you just reminded me of. It's like, yeah, nobody else can hear it. They have their own voice that's talking pretty loud too. So tell me, I always ask on the show, a situation in your life, or maybe it was a period of time or a person, something you were dealing with that was really difficult and could have taken you out for the count, but somehow you were able to transcend the circumstance or the situation and emerge what I call unmessable with, which doesn't mean being tough, but it's more about being able to stay in the world of vision and creation and manifesting what you're committed to versus getting
Mhm.
hooked and reactionary. So, what's a situation that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you lots of little stories, but the biggest one that comes to mind, the one I'm very transparent on, is it happened 6 years ago, and I was at that point. I was at the height of my career and at the lowest of my self worth. The reason that I got there is because I was burned out. I was overly, I was at the lowest level of burnout that I think I'd ever experienced. I was traveling 200 days a year. This is now age to age. The book had come out. My next book, Shareology, had also come out. I'd given a TED talk just like yourself, which was amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
And I was disconnected from my family quite a bit because I was gone. I had two young kids and I was missing everything. And I had this one moment when I was sitting on my son had asked me to sit down on his bed. He was 11 years old. I'll never forget it because he said, "Dad, we need to have a talk." And I'm like, "Okay." And he said, "Dad, you're never here.
Mm,
You are, as only 11-year-olds can say, which is
out
the
of the mouths
truth."
of babes. Yep.
He's like, "Dad, you're fat," and he was right. I had put on an enormous amount of weight, clinically morbidly obese, and I had diabetes. And he said, "Dad, you're sick. You're gone. You're never at our school functions, and my sister and I miss you, and so does Mom." And I just it just ripped me apart. This is not who I had planned on becoming. And he was right. And I took a trip the next day to take another talk. And that talk was just pivotal for me because the whole time I realized that this was going to be my last talk,
Mm.
that I wasn't going to do this for a while and I was going to take a step back. And we did. And I came home and I told my wife, this has to change. Um, Not us, but the rest of it. I can't do this anymore. And so then we got out of our agency. It took us 6 months. I stopped speaking for a year. I lost 85 pounds. I lost diabetes, and I picked my kids up from school and dropped them off almost every day. And I reclaimed my life. I got out of burnout. I got out of anxiety. I got out of depression. The one thing I didn't get out of, though, was drinking alcohol, and that escalated quite a bit. So the story actually escalated a little bit further down the road into a drinking problem, to the point to where I became an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. It's just that I was willing and able to actually speak it. That put me into the rooms of AA, where I got my final act together. And I went through all the steps. I went through everything that I possibly could. I became a student of anything that anyone would give me, and looked around and said, okay, I need this more than anything in my life if I'm going to survive. I need to get back to who I truly was. And I did. I really feel like I'm living now just this clarity of this best person who I can be kind of life. And it really, I hated it at the time. I never wish it on anyone, but at the same time, I'm so excited that it happened, because it informed who I am today. I'm so happy to be coaching people and helping them to get out of the same spot, or like spots in their life, or burnout, or areas that they can see that will help them to escape that voice that creates those things in our life that doesn't enable us to get to what we think we want, which I love, you call abracadabra. um,
Yes.
right. And just responding wisely versus reacting blindly. It's the best thing that I could have ever done. And that's now very, very thankful for where I'm at.
And the scaffolding of AA is so powerful. I mean, I know people find other pathways sometimes, but my husband's 34 years sober, and AA has been, such a source of power in his life. And really, what I admire so much about anybody who gets sober is that it's fundamentally based in their word. So when we
Mm,
say abracadabra, that means in ancient Aramaic or Hebrew, with my word, I create, or I create as I speak. So, they say one day at a time, but it's I won't drink today. I won't drink today. And that is all in word. And then having your actions follow your word versus your actions following your cravings or your reactions or your thoughts or your feelings or the little voice, that you actually have the power to create with word and have your actions fulfill that word. To me, that's real fulfillment.
mm.
It's not feeling based, it's word based. And, so congratulations on how long have you been sober now?
I'm coming up in 1 month from today. God willing, I'll have 2 years.
2 years. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's never over. It's like 34 years doesn't buy, the last 34 years doesn't buy you tomorrow. Your word buys you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's so powerful about that. So anybody who's listening that's dealing with any kind of addiction, you know, getting the support that will scaffold you out of that space and keep you out of the space is critical. And, there's so much stigma, less so now, but
Mm-hmm.
still there's stigma around addictions. But I say everybody's addicted to something. So whether you're addicted to being right, or you're addicted to that little voice, or you're addicted to a substance, it's like being able to intervene in whatever addiction isn't supporting you before the bottom hits you
Mm-hmm.
is all what I want to empower people to do. So I'm so happy
Mm-hmm.
that you're here speaking about that, because I know there are people listening that could make a difference with
Mm.
and will make a difference with. You know,
Well, I hope so, and I'm here for it.
yeah.
There's this thing that happens inside you when you get to help someone, and it's not out of um, having a connection. It's this connection with the other person, of knowing, like, okay, I know exactly where you are. I understand, and we can get you there. It's very possible. And it just brings this, like, we survive on connection. Connection is what we all need to survive in this world. I mean, obviously, there's food and water and connection, and that's it. Everything else can be built. Everything else can be bought, I should say. But in those primal areas, if we don't have connection, we start to suffer. And we have to have that connection in order to create whatever it is that we want, no matter what part of life that you are in, which is what H2H is all about.
I was going to
And
say, it sounds
so,
like H to H right there. That is all about
yeah,
connection. And that sounds like if you were, when you say you listen to my TED talk, it's, sounds like your dream source would be
yeah,
connection,
yep.
something like that, that really, I can hear it with your child when he talked to you. And how old is he now?
He's 20 now. Yeah.
Amazing.
And
Isn't
it's
it great?
funny.
They get old, huh?
Oh, he's
We
still
don't
the
get
same
old, but
guy.
they get
No,
old.
I'm still the same age, at least inside my head.
Yes.
But it is funny. I wrote down, as I was watching your TED talk, I wrote down my dream source and I put the word connection when I was listening to it. So you nailed it. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, you can hear it when people's, the source of people's dreams comes out of their mouth,
Mm,
as they create what inspires them and what moves them and what, is sort of their purpose in life. So I'm
mm.
so appreciative that you came and joined me today. Is there anything you want to leave people with, or how can people get in touch with you or find out more about what you do?
I would say that the biggest thing, if I leave you with anything, that anybody remembers this one thing, which is that being human right now is your competitive advantage more than it has ever been. We When you look back at the days of door-to-door salespeople, or you look back at the traditional ways that we're all used to without the internet, the thank you notes, the things that actually made a difference and made that person spark in their day and go, oh, they're thinking about me. Those things haven't gone away. I know we all know what they are. Those are also the things now that actually stand out more because we have so much automation. We have so many bots. We have so much augmented reality and virtual reality and all these different, and now AI. So think about what you can do to stand out and be more human today than you've ever been. And it doesn't take as much. It's actually going to make you stand out more. And
I
thank
love
you. You
that.
asked about the best place.
Yeah.
Probably my website, bryankramer.com, Bryan with a Y, Kramer with a K. I have a newsletter I write, and it's like a note. It's like a love note to my friends, I call them, and I write it once every 2 weeks, and I send it out, and it's what's on my mind, and we have a conversation. They reply back, I reply back. Before you know it, we're having a conversation. It's very human. So
Very human to
just
human. I love it.
sign up, and we'll have some fun. Yeah.
And I'll put the link in the show notes. So for those of you listening in the car or on your jog or on the treadmill, you don't have to worry about remembering bryankramer.com. I will have it in the show notes for you to click. Easy click. But thank you again so much for being here. And, for those of you that are listening or watching, depending on how you get your podcast, please share this episode with anyone you think it would make a difference with. There are people in your life that are dealing with, marketing their companies, marketing themselves. There are people dealing with addiction. There are people dealing with burnout. There's so many, juicy pieces of this conversation so far that you could share that will alter someone's future. So please rate, review, and most importantly, share the episode. And we'll see you on the next episode of Be Unmessable With, the podcast.
If you've ever felt like burnout was silently stealing your spark or your voice, then grab my free gift, From Burnout to Unmessable with Dr. Sundra Rice Hardy, who is a burnout expert. It's a powerful resource to reset, realign, and reclaim your energy before life forces you to. The link is right below. And here's the thing, Bryan reminded us of clarity not coming from waiting. And if you want to get out of your own way and finally start living from vision instead of depletion, this next video is where we go there. So watch it now.